Well, my friends, aloha. And yes, I am darning my really cool, genuine Hawaiian shirt. As you saw in the video when I presented this 201-2 that belongs to Dan Thompson from the great city of Lahaina, Hawaii, which is located on the island of Maui. I got it right that time. I had been saying that Lahaina was an island unto itself, which, you know what, if I were on their board of tourism, they probably wouldn't mind that very much. But today's the big day. Today is where I am gonna prepare this gorgeous 201-2 for a journey of more than 4,000 miles. And a lot of that journey is over the wide span of that great ocean that separates California from the great island of Hawaii. So it's quite a journey. It's not the furthest I've sent a machine. The furthest is probably sending one to Japan, but this is a heck of a journey nonetheless, so we're really gonna have to get ready for it. So what I'm gonna start with is preparing some of the stuff that is apart from the machine, but is gonna be in the same container, and that is the sew-offs that I did on that video, the bobbins, the needles, the original instruction manual, and then two really cool books that I've signed and wrote some really nice stuff in for Dan. And once this reaches him in Lahaina, he might decide to share some of those pictures of the books and other stuff that I put in there for him. So we're going to start by wrapping this, and it's not really a super sophisticated process. We're going to stretch wrap it to hold everything stable. That's really the key when you're packing something, is just keeping stuff from moving around. And we're going to do the same thing or something similar with the machine itself too. And no, I don't own stock, as some of you wiseacres had suggested, in either tape or stretch wrap or bubble wrap for that matter. But I do take my packing, as most of you know that have followed me for quite some time, I take my packing to another level. I just figure it's a lot easier to put that extra preparation into preparing and protecting a machine than it is in trying to explain to that customer why it arrived broken, which is what sadly Goodwill has had to do a couple of times recently with some of the machines that they've sent to customers, or I should say that they've sold to customers and then sent on to me. Now granted, this is going to be inside of a fairly heavy tote, packing peanuts and the whole shebang, but I still even protect something like this because the bobbins and the needles, etc. So I do wrap a little bit of bubble wrap around that as well. Doesn't have to be extremely heavy. And you can chuckle when I say this, but I always personally put the bubbles facing out. I figure it's kind of like an airbag, and instead of that pressure or impact hitting the outside and then finally having to compress to, to protect whatever's inside with that bubble on the inside, it's going to hit that bubble right away and create a better shield of protection. At least that's my theory. See if I can pick another Hawaiian song here. And these are listed as Hawaiian, although Dan said, Scott, I really appreciate the effort in picking the Hawaiian music, but it's not really genuine Hawaiian music. I guess kind of like getting tacos at Taco Bell. They're not the genuine article, you know what I mean? Looks like I'm almost near the end of my tape. I do have some more tape ready to put on, but so if any of you out there watching this very lengthy video showing my packing process in great detail, have thought about getting a machine from me for my workbench, you can go back and look at the pilgrimage of the prep shots and everything else associated with machines that I've gotten ready for customers and see what the difference is. And that's really what I'll say is that's the huge factor when it comes to getting a vintage sewing machine, is knowing the history of it. And all of my machines, including Dan's, are original owner machines, which means I bought it from the owner that bought it new. And if it wasn't that original owner, if they passed away, then it was from an immediate family member. It didn't get passed around to a bunch of folks like at a rummage sale or something like that. We know what the history of that machine is. So now I'm just wrapping the power cord. I'm going to use a similar process. Again, just kind of immobilizing it because it's going to go probably in the area of the harp to hold that a little bit more still. We'll obviously pat it as well so it's not banging around in there. 4,000 plus miles, that's a fairly good journey, I would say. But yeah, check those out. Look at some of the machines that have been prepared exclusively for customers. And you know, it's some people it is a big deal, to others it's not. But once that machine is fully ready and we are going to do a premiere, I always make it a point of announcing that, promoting it, and then kind of making a star of that individual that is invested in getting that fully restored machine from my workbench. So you know, it's kind of like a Hollywood premiere, but there's no red carpet. So I think that's kind of neat, and a lot of people really they kind of enjoy that. It's kind of cool to, you know, hear their name, knowing that the channel is viewed around the world, and just kind of becoming that star for a day. And that's not the reason to do it, but it's kind of fun. So we've wrapped that power cord with stretch wrap to hold it. I just got to click some other songs. I don't know if these are Hawaiian or not. And now we're just going to seal off that well, sounds like a surfing song, doesn't it? Well, and that's the end of my tape. Guess we'll be going to that other roll sooner than I thought. I'm just checking it for stickiness to make sure that if it has contact with Dan's paint, that it's not going to goof around with the paint in any way. Which, you know what, it'd be hard pressed to do it because this machine right now has about 8 coats of clear coat on it, and I mean it's almost petrified. All right, so we've got that ready. We've got the extra goodies that are going to go to Dan as well. These are all set now. That's the extent of what we're going to do for them. These are going to go around the machine inside of that tote, and we're going to create some extra barriers above and beyond what I've done in other videos because of the distance that this machine is going to travel. So the next thing we're going to do is prep the foot controller. Foot controller is an additional piece that is going to rest inside of the harp area, kind of like this. So we need to, number one, secure it with stretch wrap and then pad it with bubble wrap. And we're padding it both for the benefit of the foot control and also for the benefit of the machine itself. And I had said a little bit ago that I was probably going to put those other items, the power cord on the inside of the harp area, but most likely it's going to go alongside of the machine, just so that we have a distance from the machine, because you know, the metal and everything else that could possibly spring through on there. Yeah, that was me. I was trying to point this fan towards me that's underneath the workbench. This is, even with a light Hawaiian shirt on, this is a little bit of a workout. Going through this packing process, and it's an intense packing process, so it gets kind of warm. I could use a Hawaiian breeze right now. Although Dan said sometimes it gets pretty daggone hot around where he is. Okay, so now let's do some padding on this foot control. And I don't know if it helps any of you or not, but I usually go with a foot control. I usually do 3 squares. These are 12-inch squares of bubble wrap. And I know there's different styles of bubble wrap, but I like this style best when it comes to affording the best protection and cushion for the items that go with the machine and the machine itself. And we're just kind of encasing it now. Before I cinch it all down, I'm just going to check my distance again to make sure that we can easily fit this, which we can, into that harp space. I just received another machine here, a FOF or a FAF 130-6, and the customer is out of North Carolina, I believe. Did a decent job of packing the machines. Matter of fact, they had kind of packed it, and then when I talked to them about the standards of packing and maybe even checking out the videos that I had previously posted that showed my packing technique, they ended up going back and repacking that FOF or FAF 130-6 again. But they really didn't do a spectacular job of protecting the foot control, and it got banged around because all they did was kind of stick it inside of a box, and it was kind of moving around in there the whole trip from the East Coast. And so I guess that's my point, is you got to protect every element that's going to be making that journey. The machine, the foot control, the other stuff that's going with the machine, and really make sure that you invest that time. There's a saying we used to use in the service, and it's used in theater too, I think, but it's prior planning prevents poor performance. Prior planning prevents poor performance. There's some other little sayings like that, but I really embrace that when it comes to the packing process. It takes a lot more time, obviously, than you know, it would take to pack it in a hasty way. So you can see with the number of the 3 squares, that fits in there real snugly. And once we stretch wrap the entire machine, it's going to kind of cinch in on that. And yeah, it'll rock a little bit from side to side, but it's padded to protect the foot control. It's padded to protect the machine as well. And now we're going to use a little bit of painter's tape because we're kind of getting to that point. I always like to secure the thread and secure the thread as far as the machine being all set up, so that the customer can pretty much get it out, pack it up, unpack it, excuse me, and then jump right into some sewing. So securing the thread right above the upper tension is one of the places that I always add just a little piece of painter's tape, kind of hold that nice and secure. Obviously the needle is in the down position into the material. I have that elk skin underneath the presser foot right now, and I have the needle all the way down into that elk skin to keep that needle from getting bent when it's in transit. And then also obviously the presser foot down. So that area is pretty much immobilized, so that when that customer, when Dan unpacks this 201-2, he can pretty much get all the stuff off of it, get it out of there, set it up, and commence to sewing without a concern about any complications surfacing. And then I also anchor the thread spool as well, so it doesn't, you know, the person doesn't open up the container, unpack the machine, and find it completely catacombed with thread because it unwound while it was being transported. And I just put one right across the top as well, just to kind of anchor it in place. So at this point, once we've gone this far, we're getting into the fine points of getting this machine packed up and protected. And I even go to the extent of adding, beyond what you're going to see me add, I add an extra cushion to areas that are extremely delicate or sensitive, and that would be the upper tension control. So I usually will add 2 or 3 folds of bubble wrap and actually kind of wrap it around that tensioner, so that when I start to go around it with a stretch wrap, it's going to push this bubble wrap in to create like a cushion around that upper tension control and just make sure that it's adequately protected. I also will sometimes add an extra one to the side where the power control, where the power cord plugs in, because this is basically a cast type plastic, and these are real prone to getting broken in transport. So I'll probably cut one more piece and put it over there on that side as well. And yes, I'm putting my little bubbles facing out. So we're kind of wrapping it on the side right here, and then we're going to commence with the stretch wrap to begin encapsulating this 201-2 to keep it as safe as we possibly can while it's traveling those 4,000 plus miles. Oops, I forgot to add one more piece of painter's tape. I always put a little piece of painter's tape as well on the thread tails coming off the back of the presser foot as well. Again, just kind of keeping everything from getting moved around, and makes it easier for the customer, hopefully, so they don't have to adjust or correct anything once it gets there. Alright. Yeah. So, we'll get that back in place. There we go. So you can see right now we've got it pretty well encased with the stretch wrap. Let's see if I can tie that off before you see this thing spring loose. And then I also will go around the stretch wrap as well, just to reinforce the strength of that stretch wrap. And I always go over the top as well to create like a dome of protection as well before we start adding the bubble wrap. So just gives it a little bit more stability. And then we're going to be adding the cross pieces across the top, again just to seal that machine off and to give that top a little bit better stability as well. You have to sometimes touch it with your finger because you get a reflection off of there, and it's kind of hard to see if there's still a gap point on there or not. Okay, so there's layer one. You can kind of look at it through the camera, and you can see kind of what we've done. And it's like that all the way around. It's encased with that stretch wrap, and then we've provided that extra protection to some of the more sensitive areas, like the plug-in point where the power cord goes, and also the upper tension controller as well. And inside of there is our foot control, so everything is all self-contained. Let's see what we got. I've got a Norton announcement. There's been more identities stolen. What a shocker, huh? Alright, so the last one we did is called Live Worms, not making that up, and this one is called Windows Rolled Down. Windows Rolled Down, which I'm sure they do quite a bit of that in Lahaina, in that beautiful tropical paradise. All right, let's continue the process. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create the next layer of protection for Dan's 201-2. This is really more of a barrier that we're creating on the inside, so that when we put that bubble wrap around it and stuff, it's got this stretch wrap to kind of protect that paint and filigree and finish and everything, and also to just keep it clean. Now we're going to be adding that outer shell that's going to provide a large portion of the protection for this 201-2 as it travels all the way to Hawaii. So let's start doing that. My average on the outside barrier with this bubble wrap is usually about 6 layers. Because we're traveling a greater distance, I'm probably going to increase it to 8. And it's a little bit awkward to do it because of the space of turning it in that, so I'm going to rotate Dan's machine. There we go. That might make it just a little bit easier for me as I try to come around the backside past John Lennon. And any of you that are new to the channel, that's John Lennon sewing on a faff in England. So that's kind of fun. I've got some other celebrities as well that, one other celebrity on the workbench that also demonstrated his prowessness to be able to sew. Alright, So bubbles out, again my preference. We will start with this little roll of bubble wrap. Get my end starting piece anchored. And we just start walking it around the machine. And you know what? I'm going to do one other thing before we start this. Let's take that back over there. Because the 201-2 is a machine that can self-stand, and it has the two pedestals on the bottom, that's a real nice stable sewing platform, but it also has some small support legs that come down as well that are cast. And if there's a large impact, I've heard of these actually breaking off. Never had one break off, but I also add an extra little barrier underneath the machine to give better support to those in the form of good old-fashioned heavy gauge cardboard. That way we've got a little bit extra platform support for this 201. And I'm going to kind of undo my work here because I took that a little bit out of order. I normally would do that first. And we're going to basically just lift this 201-2 up. Yeah, I know I make it look easy. It's like 45 pounds. Alright, so now we've got our very heavy gauge cardboard platform that this 201-2 is resting on, with its pedestal feet and then also its cast feet as well, so that it gives a more stable platform. And also the cardboard will give a little bit if it does get hit by a hard shock, so that it will keep it safe. And I'm going to take one other thing. We'll do one other thing before we move back into the bubble wrap. I'm also going to try to anchor this machine to that as well, and it's a tricky process. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, then don't do it. Take this tape off of there before. There we go. But again, our whole purpose in packing is to make everything a single unit. So it doesn't make any sense to add this extra barrier to the bottom of the machine without trying to anchor it to the machine. So let's see here. I have to tilt this 201 back just a little bit here. And we'll probably go around it about, 3-4 times. And when I'm pulling this stretch wrap around the machine right now, I am torquing it pretty hard. So we are joining those two together with quite a bit of force. And after we go around 2 or 3 times, what we then do is reinforce it with tape. So now we've got that connected, and we'll do the same thing with the rear of the machine as well. I do this with the machines that have those metal pedestal, or excuse me, metal feet, because they can almost have a sharpness to them and can kind of cut through if you don't do something like this to protect. And the back of the machine is heavier, so it's it's a little bit more awkward than the front. Tell you what, I'm going to cheat and come to the edge of the table. And there goes my stretch wrap. You see I'm torquing that enough, it's actually pulling the edge of that cardboard up, that's perfectly okay because it provides a little bit more protection above and beyond what we're already doing. As you bring it to the edge, just kind of keep a hand on it so you don't have a surprise and test gravity with your machine. All right. So now we have it anchored on each end so that that cardboard is being held in place. I might actually reinforce this side a little bit more as well because we have it taped partly, but we don't have it completely encircling that, which I think will create a little bit more, a little bit more protection for it. All right. You saw me jump a little bit because that machine decided by that pedestal foot to kind of slide a little bit on the edge of the table, and I would have been able to grab it, but it was like, ah! Nothing short of a minor heart attack. Oh, that's right, we're going to go this way. Give myself a little bit more room to come around the back side of that. Okay, and you'll do the same thing if you have a machine in a case. I talked about that a little bit with that with the featherweight and others that are in a case. You also want to, once you have that machine packed inside of the case, you want to do something similar to this and anchoring it on both sides so that that case doesn't have the potential to pop open when it's being transported, especially if it gets a big hit. And I'm looking at the thickness of this bubble wrap. I don't think I'm going to get my 8 layers out of this little roll, so I've got to go with a bigger roll, which is going to make it a little bit more challenging to get around the back of that machine. Probably come up with like a huge packing table. Back in the day I used to do it when I was shipping FedEx and UPS. I used to do it right in their store. I would be there usually for about 2 or 3 hours. Alright, so we're going to get this in place. Anchor that down, kind of like we were starting to do before. And I'm looking at my logic now and trying to go lengthwise, and I think it's actually going to hurt me, so we will adjust and bring it back so it's on the edge. At least then I can kind of try to sneak it by. It's a lot easier when you're just kind of doing this and you're not talking through it. It can kind of mess you up. So again, our goal is going to be to go and create a barrier around this machine of about 8 layers. of bubble wrap. Let the fun begin. We're up to 2 on the back. There's 2. 3. 4. 5. As I break everything. Sorry about that, John. I just took out poor John Lennon. Totally lost count now. 2, 3, 4, 5. So this will be 6 coming around. Looks like 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 6. 7. And there's our 8th layer right there. Okay, so now you're going to tie off your end with obviously some tape before it unravels on you. I feel like mine is starting to do. And now we've got to, I always say we have to make it one unit, and the only way we can make these 8 layers one unit with the machine is to go back to stretch wrap again and pull all this together nice and tight. If any of you remember way back in the day when you were in school and they used to sometimes have you do drop tests with different things, back at the school I was at, they would give us like a raw egg, and then we had to protect it as best as we could, and we would go up on the 2nd or 3rd floor of the school, drop it out the window, and if it hit the ground and you unpacked it and it wasn't broken, you got a better grade, or you got, who knows what you got, I don't remember. But sneaking a quick drink there on the side. That's the whole philosophy behind making it a single unit, is the more you make that a single unit and compact that to create a single resilient shell with multiple layers around that item, the better protection it's going to afford. So we'll go back to our stretch wrap now after I find another song maybe. That I can put on. And these are all listed as island Hawaiian music, but you know what? You don't have to buy it, because I don't think it's genuine, that's for sure. Alright, I think I just did that on the other search. Alright, this is called Dodo Bird. So if you ever are on a trivia program and they play this, you could say, ah, that's Dodo Bird. Alright, let's stretch wrap it nice and snug now to make those 8 layers a single unit. I said, it's a little bit of a workout. And I don't even have to pay a gym fee to do this. Alright, so I just broke the end off, and now I'm going to tie that off, and then I'm going to reinforce this just like we did with the inner shell with tape as well, just to create a harder exterior to that shell. Also, it reinforces that stretch wrap a little bit better, so that and the bubble wrap, just so that it doesn't, you know, create any little breaks and then start to give way. Alright, just like on the inside with the stretch wrap, now what we're going to do is we're going to go across the top as well to reinforce this top as we did on the inside. Okay, so assuming the only thread to this machine is around the outer edges of this machine, the outer perimeter of it, we've got some real good protection in place right now for this machine. But the reality is that's not the only thread. The thread also can come from the top down, because we don't know when this goes onto the plane or onto the ship or however they get it there. I'm assuming by plane, that they won't be putting something else equally heavy on top of this, and it's going to be pressing down on that tote. So we've got to protect this top as much as we have the outer perimeter of the machine. And we do that by creating another bubble protection that's going to go right over the dome of this as well. This is called Island Summer Breeze by Coyote Hearing. Not making it up, folks. How could I? I guess the whole idea with a band, because I have a lot of connections with bands on YouTube because of, and also on Facebook, because of my love of music. And I guess coming up with a clever name is part of the secret, isn't it? Kind of like back in the day, Boston, Foreigner, REO Speedwagon, all those groups, they all had kind of cool names, didn't they? So what we're doing for our dome now on top is we're taking some additional bubble wrap. I usually fold it in half and then fold it in half again, so we're creating an additional 4 layers of protection that are going to go on top of this dome part. And actually I'm looking at the narrowness of it, and again thinking about the distance of 4,000 plus miles, I'm going to go ahead and fold it one more time so that we've got 8 layers of bubble wrap that are going to protect this dome on the top. See how I did that? Kind of pressing it down so that it doesn't spring loose while I'm trying to grab the tape gun. And again, I'm kind of pulling it a little bit tight because I want that to remain a single unit with what we're trying to do. And yes, I'm also going to put a couple layers across the top of here as well. Again, right now this is bubble wrap, bubbles facing out, but if we add just a single layer of tape to this, it's going to increase the protection threshold by giving this more substance and more density than if we don't add it. And it only takes a few seconds to do it. Okay, so now as you're looking at this very interesting little project, we have the outer perimeter protected all the way around. We've got the top now protected with 8 layers of bubble wrap, plus a little thin shell of tape to give it more stability and more density. So are we done? I think I heard several no's. No, we still have to protect the bottom. Even though we have that thick layer of cardboard on there, because of those little feet, those little cast iron type feet that will potentially cut through, we also have to do a bubble wrap protection on the bottom as well. And at this point, I don't have to be concerned about laying this machine back on a little pillow, because we've got a lot of protection for the machine. So you can see here, here's our cardboard that we added. So if those sharp little feet on this machine try cutting through, good luck. This stuff is probably about 7 millimeters thick almost. So that's a lot of cardboard. This is real heavy cardboard, not the light stuff. So the first thing we'll do before we add that base of bubble wrap is, right now we're anchored on both sides with the stretch wrap, but we don't have the base connected all the way to the top of the machine. So we got to do that too. We'll start running the edge, and then we'll just kind of work that tape over the edge so that it's anchored a little bit better. Now the machine is going to be standing in an upright position in the tote, so we don't have to go crazy, because the weight of that machine, the 45 pounds, is going to be pressing straight down onto this base. But we like to eliminate all possibilities of issues coming up. So we'll just add a little bit of tape to the edges to join these two pieces together. The wonders of static electricity when you're trying to do something like this. It's always interesting. And the same thing here, we want to anchor the top to this base that we've added. All right. I'm not really going to do much with this front piece right here. You can see that. I could run one piece, and I probably will, right along the front from the top, kind of joining this to that. But, you know, again, the way that, as you see it right now, is how it's going to be riding in the tote. So I just don't see that being a major issue. But we'll add it just as an extra precaution. And it's kind of common sense, but as you're putting tape and everything else, you just want to press it down. Again, the whole idea of making it a single unit. So now we can turn this machine back. You can pretty much tell which way that machine is facing right now because you can see that bump right here from the potted motor. So we know this is the rear of the machine. We're going to be adding that bubble wrap now to the bottom of the machine to complete the entire protection perimeter around the machine, top, bottom, and the sides. So on the bottom, we're probably going to do between 4 to 6 layers of bubble wrap. See if I got even remotely close to measuring that. Let's see. This is called Steel Drum Lullaby. All right. So I'm up to 1, 2, 4 layers. I'm going to give it one more fold and we should have 8 layers. So talked about 6. We'll actually beef it up a little bit more. Have to get my edges even remotely straight. The problem with bubble wrap, and it's even worse in the winter, is that doggone static electricity. So here's our 8 layers of bubble wrap that we're going to add now to that bottom platform. Instead of just having cardboard, we're going to add this as an extra cushion. Plus we're going to have a thin layer of peanuts underneath and all the way encasing the machine as well. Yes, I do take packing very seriously, especially when we're talking about something traveling over 4,000 miles. That's extreme. All these songs are so doggone short. Right. Oh, there we go. So you can see we've completed all of this along here now as a single unit. We've got this right here, and now we're going to anchor this on the side, and then all we have left is the front, and we'll have this as a complete unit that back in 5th grade or 4th grade I would have said, okay, let's drop it out the window now. I think we'll skip that part of it. This is called Savannah Havana. And no, I'm not going to dance. Okay, maybe a little. This is my one union break while I'm doing this. All right, let's do the front now. I got some people that follow me. I think they're really kind of serious folks, and they sometimes object when I do my little dances, but I don't do it for them. I do it for me. And we went around the edges, but we're also going to go vertical as well. Obviously the back of the machine, and I usually, to help the customer out, will write on the back of there and the front, depending on how they take it out of the case, so that as they're unpacking it, they can just be orientated as to they're trying to cut through carefully or they're trying to remove the different layers. They can visualize in their mind, okay, I know what the machine looks like. I know what's at risk on the back as I remove all these layers. So again, I'm just trying to make it as easy as I can for the customer, for Dan. That one kind of got happy on the F there. And I just put a little piece of tape over that too, so that permanent marker can rub off in that. Try to think of everything. So here we've got the front of the machine, faceplate area of the front, the back of the machine, balance wheel, including that plug-in point that we added that even extra barrier of protection to. I think it was, what was it, 4 layers? So on that one area that's really prone to getting broken when it's being shipped or transported, we have 12 layers of bubble wrap over that plug-in point. I hope that's enough. It should be. And then finally, we have the bottom as well, with 8 layers protecting that, plus the cardboard as well to keep those sharp little support feet from poking through, and potentially if the container gets dropped or something like that, one of those little support feet getting broken off. We've done a really good job of protecting the machine from, I think I just hit Dr. Singer, sorry about that, Dr. Singer. I think we did a really good job of protecting the machine from every direction that we possibly can. So at this point now, we're ready to go to the next phase, and that is adding, just looking to see if I'm still recording. I've got a different camera now, folks. You probably concluded that because the camera hasn't shut off yet. Yeah, we are still recording. Crazy. Now we're going to join this with the exterior tote that I use as the outer shell of protection for the sewing machine. But prior to doing that, we have one more thing to do. And I almost hate to do it because when we add that outer layer of stretch wrap over the bubble wrap, it looks really good. Kind of looks almost stylish. But now we've got to decimate it with a little bit of cardboard. Again, taking into account the distance, we're going to create a final box around this machine and then slide it into that tote. And I think this one I'll have to probably cut. Yes, I will. I'll have to cut this one in half. So now I have to see if I can find my cutter. And I better grab this stuff too so we don't forget it. minute. Aha! Safety first, folks. Safety first. No, I'm not cutting towards myself. Are you out of your mind? That would be horribly dangerous. And no, I haven't practiced this part of it, so if it doesn't work out, oh well. If I had an able-bodied assistant right now to hold these, that would be so helpful. Anybody want to volunteer? Probably also tape this and just put it over the top, couldn't I? But why do it easy? Now we have a fighting chance. Okay, and I already hear some of you that are extremely studious and observant. You're saying, don't we have to now join the machine to the outer super thick cardboard barrier, extra barrier that you created because of the distance that the machine is traveling? Yes, we do. So we're going to strap it across the top here and here to make it a single unit. That's our celebration music. We're almost to the end. That was even a shorter one. No, we're not getting ready for a nuclear war, but we are getting ready to ship this all the way to Lahaina, Hawaii, more than 4,000 miles. And I packed a machine in a similar manner when I shipped it all the way to Japan. Similar machine packing when it goes to Australia, England, Ireland, Germany. We're packing it for the ultimate disaster, which we hope doesn't happen. All right, finally, after all of that, the tote finally gets to do something. So you can see right now the way we packed it, we also have additional clearance on top from where the lid is going to come in contact at probably almost 3.5 to 4 inches. And we can't forget our goodies as well. We send this all the way to Lahaina, Hawaii without a power cord. I don't think Dan is going to be a real super happy camper. Let me check my shot here because now we're dealing with a little bit higher profile. I think we're in pretty good shape. Okay, so now I'm going to find a way to get peanuts in there. And what could be a more appropriate tool to dispense peanuts into a container than a welding grinding type hat. It's actually what I use, folks, not making that up. We'll have to get that book in there because that's going to be pretty wide before we get this too high. See? It works perfectly for putting peanuts. You just have to keep the front closed so that you don't get that trapped in there. Alright, so we got the power cord, which we're going to put right in the front area. We've got the book that has the bobbins, the needles, and all the other goodies. We'll put that along the back side of the machine. And now we're going to fill up the rest of the cavity space all with peanuts. Create a final barrier of protection. And as you fill it, you'll want to give that container a little bit of a shake. Just make sure those peanuts work their way all the way down. You just catch the stray ones. there you have it, folks. We're going to add the lid now. We're going to strap it lengthwise on both sides, and then strap it widthwise both sides. Add those fragile stickers, and get this heading towards the post office. We're getting tight on time. I better hurry up. Bring it right to the edge, almost at that tipping point. You might be asking how many times they go around. I have no idea. It's kind of an intuitive thing. I stop when I stop, or when I run out of stretch wrap. I would say it's probably about 10 times. You know, even if it falls on my workbench at this point, I think we've got a fighting chance it's not going to get handled. What do you think? Alright, if any of you went to the effort of counting how many layers I just put on there, you can let me know. But like I said, once you pack this many machines, you pretty much know. You know what it's going to take to protect them. Alright. Now we're going to do the other long side as well with stretch wrap and then tape. And then we'll do the same thing going horizontally, and then we'll attach all of those banding points together. Because again, we want to make it a single unit, right? Kind of push down on that lid as you come around with those first couple of strapping points so that you don't have any gap point on that lid. If there's a little bit of a gap point, it's okay, because when we come across horizontally, we're going to take care of that. And if you don't think this is a workout, try this. Unlike a lot of the stuff I do on the channel where I say don't try this at home, you can try this at home. Minus the cutting the cardboard like I did, you know, kind of holding it like I did. Yeah, that was a little bit dangerous. We're pressing that down really hard right now to get all those bubbles and all those spaces out of those multiple layers of tape we just put down. So again, it's made a single unit, just like every other process of the packing, every other part of the packing process. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, now we're going to add our strapping to the sides. But first of all, we'll see if we can find just a little bit of music. Perfectly timed with the music. Okay, and again, once you get these cross points like this, then you want to go ahead and attach those banding points so you don't forget. So we're going to add 3 strips of tape on both sides here, and we'll do the same thing to the other side once we get to that point. See that? These 2 were kind of just floating. Now we've made them one. Alright, our final side. We've almost gone through a full roll of tape. Actually, we've gone through more than a full roll of tape because we started with one, remember? We ran out. And now we're on our second roll of tape. So to get this ready to go to Hawaii, we've probably used 1 1/4 rolls of tapes. I have no idea how big a roll of tape is, but oh my gosh, there goes our roll. So it's going to be more than 1 1/4. It's going to be a little bit more than 1 1/4. I'm almost done with this. Almost. There goes another one biting the dust. Yes, I buy it by the case, folks. I buy it by the case. Just think about it. Think about the number of hands. The number of hands that are going to touch this tote before it lands in Lahaina. That worker that's been working all night, exhausted, tired, and says, doggone it, that tote is heavy, I'm going to go ahead and give it a toss. Or they decide to put it on top of some other ones and it falls off. I think we're pretty well protected. I'm knocking stuff down. I do press it down pretty hard. Alright, so we're strapping these to join these together now, like we did on the other side. You know, what's the point of all the work I put into getting a machine ready for a customer if I pack it haphazardly and it arrives almost like a Christmas morning with that customer so excited to open it up and begin to enjoy it, and they can't because it arrived broken? That's why I invest so much time in this process, just like I do in all the other process points. I guess that's why I offer the best machines in the world, huh? So there we got it. The only thing left is the fragile stickers. We put one on each side so they can't say, oh, I didn't see that. And I also tape those down too, to what? Yes, to make it a single unit. You guys are starting to get this. I always say you're very, very smart. No, you're not losing your mind. I did play that steel drum one twice. I really like that one. I really like that song. It's pretty. I'm not going to have anything left on the shelves by the time I get done here. Oh, it is a 201 though. It's not a light machine, folks. It's not a light machine at all. So if anyone tries to sell you a 201 and says, I know you came to me looking for a featherweight or a 99 or 99K, but you know, this is really pretty much the identical machine. Don't buy it. Don't buy that one. So the last thing I do, which you will not be a part of, is to add that address label right here in the center. And then yes, I do tape it to there because otherwise what's the point, right? And that's it. That's the entire process. A very long process, I know, but it's really that important. It's that critical to get it right when you're talking about a machine like this, the Rolls-Royce of Singer sewing machines, and a customer that's all the way in Lahaina, Hawaii, on the island of Maui, because they've waited a long time for it. There's a lot of anticipation, and I want this container and the machine and all the goodies inside to arrive safe and sound, so I can get a text message or a note from Dan saying, got it set up, love it. Now I'm going to work on my next machine that I want to buy from you, Scott. Hint, hint, Dan. Hint, hint. So, hope this was helpful. The last time I did this was with my old camera, and obviously I had to do it in 2 sections, so it didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, but it is what it is, right? And so now we've got the end of the process. So thanks for watching. God bless you guys, and aloha to this amazing 201-2 heading towards Lahaina, Hawaii. Bon voyage.